Good morning, and thank you for attending Police Headquarters. My name is Constable Carolyn DeClute, and I'm here today to introduce Detective Constable Michele Bond of Sex Crimes Child Exploitation Section. She will be speaking about a child luring investigation, and Detective Constable Amy Davey of Sex Crimes Child Exploitation Section, and she will be speaking about online safety. Michele?
Good morning, everyone. Today I'll be discussing about a male who's been arrested for several luring and child pornography charges or offenses. The Toronto Police Service Sex Crimes Unit Child Exploitation Section would like to thank, first of all, the public, our community partners, namely Kids Help Phone, for their assistance in this ongoing investigation. Throughout the past year, it's been alleged that Brandon Walker, age 24 years of age, has been luring young females through social media to obtain explicit photos of these victims. In both these cases, the victims, who are between the ages of 13 and 14, were threatened with being exposed on social media if they did not send naked pictures of themselves or videos or complying with his sexual demands. In this particular case, Brandon Walker began by starting up a relationship with these girls and also by offering money for explicit photos. Brandon Walker used the online name of Brandon G. Davidson while on Facebook when he communicated with these victims. As you can see to my right, this is his profile picture on Facebook when it was up. And this is what we're asking people to have a look at, because this is how probably people will be recognizing him. And Brandon Walker has been charged with the following offenses: 2 counts of luring a child under the age of 16 years, counseling to commit the offense of making child pornography, ×3, 2 counts of make child pornography, 2 counts of possession of child pornography, and 2 counts of extortion. Members of the public continue to contact investigators with information, and based on the public's assistance, we believe that there are additional victims out there, and we encourage them to come forward. Anyone with information is asked to contact police. Our main office is 416-808-8500. Or they can leave a tip on Facebook. You can also contact Crime Stoppers anonymously at 416-222-TIPS, as well as www.222tips.com. You can text TOR and leave your message to crimes, and download the free Crime Stoppers mobile app on iTunes, Google Play, or BlackBerry app. So that's my information with this investigation. Detective Constable Amy will be speaking about online safety, and afterwards we can answer any questions that anyone may have.
Thank you, Michele. The Child Exploitation Section, along with the Toronto Police Service, want to take this opportunity to remind parents and youth of the dangers that exist online. At any given point, predators are online waiting to exploit your children. It doesn't matter if they're male or female, they are there with threats, and they are trying to exploit them for their own personal gain, whatever that might be. Often kids online are asked to share naked pictures of themselves. These pictures are then circulated on various social media outlets, and in some cases are ended up being sent to the child's family and friends. Youth today need to be skeptical of the persons that they meet online. They also need to remember that the actions they take on the internet will remain there for years to come. Parents and guardians also need to take a proactive role in monitoring their child's online activity. Some tips that may assist parents with monitoring their child's internet use include restricting internet use to common family areas, keeping track of what social media accounts your child has, and knowing the password to those accounts. conducting random inspections of their phones, devices, and computers, and also approving all apps prior to them being downloaded by your child. If your child has been a victim of child sex exploitation, you need to consider the following as a parent. Your child will often give in to the threats that they receive online because they're trying to manage the threat on their own. Your child will be embarrassed that they've gotten themselves in this situation, and it'll be very difficult for them to come forward to any adult. When your child does come forward, try to maintain a supportive relationship and assist them as best you can. Child victims of online exploitation should also consider the following points if something like this is happening to you. Never comply with the threat. Stop all forms of communication with the individual and deactivate your accounts that you've had any contact with the individual. Speak to an adult about what is happening to you and contact the police or an organization that can provide help. Beside me is a list of organizations that exist solely to provide advice and assistance to youth and parents who are experiencing this type of exploitation online. They include the Kids Help Phone, the Canadian Centre for Protection, CyberTip, and Need Help Now. We'll now open up the room for some questions, and I'll invite Detective Constable Bond to return to the podium.
Question for Detective Bond. Just curious, how were you able to catch this suspect?
The victims came forward to the police. As a result, they found themselves in a situation where they couldn't deal with this anymore, and in their state of crisis, police were notified.
And then he turned himself in, or did he just go to his house?
He did eventually, through investigation, in the end, Mr. Walker did turn himself into police.
Can you talk about, how many victims there are that you know about, and how many more potentially you think there are? Would you think there's several more? Or?
At this point, we have 2 victims, and we are still conducting the investigation. There are potentially more, and that's why we held this press conference today, because we do believe that there are more.
What's involved in that investigation now in terms of trying to track down potentially other victims?
It's just a matter of, that's why we came here today, is because we need those victims to come forward. And we're asking the parents who do watch the news at nighttime, if they do have a young teenage daughter, to ask them, have they seen this person online? Have they communicated with this person online? And if their child, if their daughter does say yes, contact us. And we'll ask the questions for them. But in instances such as this, ignorance is not bliss. You must know for your child's protection.
In terms of using his technology, I'm sure you must have seen his computer and whatnot in terms of tracking down maybe other people that he's been in contact with. Would you then reach out to those victims if you're able to determine that there have been others?
If it came to that, yes. But as I say, the investigation is still ongoing, but that, it could be one of the ways that we do it.
Would the possible victims be around the same age as the 2 that we already know about?
I can't answer that. I honestly don't know right now.
Would that be a safe assumption that they would be kind of like young girls, basically?
It would be a safe assumption. I would not stop at, let's say, the age of 13. He could potentially have communicated with somebody younger. He could have communicated with someone older.
What were some of the things the suspect was doing to try to establish a relationship online?
With establishing a relationship, it's basically communication, talking with them. And with online predators, they find a way to find likes, certain interests, common interests, common likes, and they develop the trust of that individual, of that young person. And as we know with young persons, it's so easy to gain that trust. And that's how it can start. He has done that, and as well as I said, offered money.
So these victims, he didn't know them previously before establishing contact online?
I couldn't answer that, but I do know that he communicated online.
And this was over social media. Can you talk about specifically what apps and what?
Well, in this particular case, it was through Facebook, but, Facebook has assisted us through our own law enforcement requests and things such as that. But it's not just Facebook, it's all social media. Children are getting exploited. It's not just Facebook, it's all social media.
Is there more that these companies need to do to protect young people from this kind of exploitation?
I guess there's always more everybody can do, but it starts not just with the companies, it starts with the families at home, and working in conjunction with police, with the school boards. Education is key in these situations.
Because so many teenagers now have smartphones and it seems like at the very least iPods, which have internet connectivity, a lot of the action can be out of sight, out of mind for parents. What more can parents do, or guardians, to kind of keep tabs on their kids and make sure they're not getting into the situation?
I'll let Detective Constable Amy Davey answer that one.
One of the things that we suggest parents do is limit the use of devices in areas of the house that they will be alone. And I realize that you can't do that when they leave the house, but keeping track of what your child is doing online and having them know that you are keeping on track will definitely help curb and help them prevent them from getting into any sort of trouble.
Any idea how common this kind of thing is?
It's incredibly common. By the point that police are notified of this, I'm sure that there are thousands of other individuals that haven't said anything to their parents, that try to deal with the situation themselves one way or the other. And some do get lucky, but a lot of them don't.
What kind of challenges does it pose to investigators like yourselves in terms of tracking people down on these social media platforms and through the internet?
There's all kinds of challenges. Like every instance is different, and as I say, there are so many social media avenues that children are on nowadays and whatnot, and every company is different. They're all willing to help with the proper law enforcement requests and whatnot, but there are just so many nowadays, and there are, I can guarantee you, there are tens, if not hundreds, of apps that parents aren't aware of that their children are going on.
Are you aware of any other apps or social media accounts that he had where he may have made contact?
Not at this time. The investigation is still going on. We're still looking into forensics and whatnot.
Was it specifically Toronto-based, or do you suspect that he was luring and developing relationships with people outside of the city of Toronto and probably within other provinces, so on and so forth?
Yeah, we don't know that yet. Again, we'll know more information once we look at the devices and whatnot. But we go where the internet goes, and the internet goes everywhere. So it's just as easy. It's just as easy to lure a child in BC or in southern USA as it is somebody right down your street.
Was he interested in trying to meet these victims as well, or was it strictly send me pictures?
There was indication of a meet.
That they did meet up, or he
No,
tried to?
no. There was indication he did want to.
Detective Davey, you said that they try to manage this themselves. They're embarrassed. When does it get to the point where it's totally out of control? Are they being blackmailed, extorted? What's going on?
I think when images of the child get sent to family and friends, or just friends, it eventually makes its way back to the parents. And a lot of times, it's when the parents find out through other means that the police get involved. Because the child is just too embarrassed and too scared. They believe the threat will happen if they don't share these images, and they dug themselves a hole and they don't know how to get out.
What is the threat? Just the pictures themselves, or does it go beyond that?
The threat would be like an extortion. Send me more pictures, send me videos. If you don't do that, I'm sending these to your employer. I'm sending these to your friends.
Detective, now that this suspect has been arrested and these victims are there, what happens with the victims? Do they get any sort of, because obviously they're going through a tough time, do they get counseling, do they get help? What kind of services are they provided to help them kind of get through this?
We have a number of outlets that we provide to victims of exploitation. Another one that's not listed here is Boost. They help victims of online crimes. And we also, one of the websites that we most use frequently is Need Help Now. And that's a website that's listed here. And what it does is it helps victims get their photos removed from the internet, which you may not always be able to, but it's a step in the right direction.
Last question?